Hello everyone. Today I will recap the movie Maleficent Part 2, Mistress of Evil. At the beginning of the movie, 3 thieves entered the moors with the purpose of kidnapping the mushroom spirits in the forest. He saw the mushroom creatures sleeping in the tree hole and reached out to catch them. The other mushroom creatures escaped, leaving only a small mushroom creature sleeping soundly, unaware, almost being caught. Then the mushroom creature bit his hand and ran away. The thief immediately chased after it into a strange glowing flower garden. He caught the mushroom, but when he looked up, he saw something strange and quickly picked a flower. At this time, 2 of his accomplices were entangled by vines and died. Hearing their screams, he panicked and ran back to the kingdom, bringing mushrooms and flowers to deliver to the merchant, receiving 2 coins. 5 years have passed. Aurora has now become the queen of the moors. One fine morning, the forest creatures happily woke up. At this time, 3 fairies appeared, carrying the elf Pinto the hedgehog. Suddenly, Pinto jumped up, grabbed Aurora's crown and rolled away. The creatures of the forest also helped Pinto tease her. Aurora chased after it, but it refused to return it, eventually causing her to fall into the water. In her anger, Aurora continued to chase it to a large willow tree. At that moment, Prince Phillip suddenly appeared, knelt before she and proposed romantically. She was very happy and nodded in agreement. Exile, who was on the tree, witnessed everything and immediately flew to the cliff to inform Maleficent. This made Maleficent extremely angry, immediately flying to find her. In the kingdom of Ulstead, King John always wanted peace, while his wife, Queen Ingrith, always supported war. She often holds her favorite crossbow, aiming at the people around her, despite her husband's attempts to stop her. At this time, Philip returns and announces that he has proposed to Aurora and Aurora has accepted. King John is very happy, but she is not satisfied. She smiles reluctantly and hugs Philip. She then tells Philip to invite Aurora and Maleficent to the party. Maleficent goes to Aurora and says that love often does not end well. However, Aurora, a young princess, has fallen in love with Philip and does not believe in it. She decides to marry him and invites Maleficent to attend the party at his house tonight. Seeing she happy, Maleficent finally agrees to go with her. Maleficent also carefully practices in advance, looking at her face in the water, and listening to Evil's instructions to adjust her emotions to be approachable. But she thoughtlessly brought a black scarf to Maleficent, asks Maleficent to hide her horns because she is worried that Philip's family will not like it. Meanwhile, Ingrith secretly went to the wardrobe room, turned a mannequin and opened a secret door to go down. Underground is where the blacksmiths work. They are diligently forging weapons under the command of Gerda, Ingrith's right-hand assistant. She also has a secret research room, where they specialize in creating weapons to destroy creatures in the Moor's kingdom. On the day of the party, Maleficent uses tree roots to create a bridge leading to the Ulstead kingdom, and together with her daughter Aurora and Exile cross. The human kingdom is afraid of when they see Maleficent, they scream and run away, while guards stand everywhere. They enter the palace, where Philip, Ingrith and John stand to welcome them. After greetings, everyone sat at the table, music played, but the food was bird meat. Maleficent looked at the iron plates and spoons, and wondered if Ingrith had done it on purpose. During the feast, Ingrith repeatedly provoked her by mentioning the death of King Stefan, and the curse of a child that made it fall into eternal sleep. She also responded, mentioning the unusual disappearance of small creatures in the forest. At this time, Ingrith also deliberately linked the Moor's kingdom with the death of 2 men that had happened several days ago. At this moment, next to Exile, suddenly there was a cat jumping up, but was held back in midair by Maleficent with just 1 finger. Everyone around was terrified, and Aurora begged her mother to let the cat down. The king also advised his wife to calm down. Ingrith pretended to be gentle and apologized, then she talked about Aurora, saying that from now on she would have a proper family, that from today, Aurora was her daughter, which angered Maleficent. She spread her wings and revealed her horns. All the lights in the palace went out, leaving only the blue fire for magic. The guards who rushed in were also thrown away by Maleficent. Aurora quickly stopped her mother. However, she ordered Aurora to follow her back immediately. Ingrith, taking advantage of the chaos, came to hide behind the king and pretended to fall down. Ingrith immediately said that it was Maleficent who cursed her. Maleficent quickly looked at her daughter and said that she did not do it, but unexpectedly the princess believed the words of outsiders and did not believe her mother anymore. Aurora ran towards them, constantly accusing her mother. Frustrated and heartbroken, she flapped her wings and flew away, but Gerda was already waiting above. Gerda shot an iron bullet into her side. Her magic spread everywhere, causing her to fall into the river below. In the palace, Ingrith led the king into the room. Philip advised she to kiss his father, hoping that true love could wake the king. She hesitated but finally did, but unfortunately the king still did not wake up. Aurora felt guilty and decided to return to the moors to fight her mother, and ask her to lift the curse on the king. When she arrived, she only met creatures, and Maleficent was not there. Giaval was also trapped in human form. Aurora did not worry about her mother, but focused only on lifting the curse on her father-in-law. So she quickly returned to the kingdom of Ulstead. The hedgehog Pino also secretly followed. Meanwhile, Maleficent was swept away by the current and sank deep into the sea. Fortunately, a man with black wings saved her, helping her fly above the water. When she learned that Maleficent was still alive, the queen became very angry. Hearing that she was not alone, Ingrith was afraid and immediately ordered the preparation of weapons and ammunition to be ready to deal with her. During the night, news of Maleficent's curse on the king spread, causing everyone to be angry. Maleficent woke up and realized that she was lying in a giant bird's nest. Her right flank was injured but it was bandaged. She looked around and did not know where she was. She curiously went into the turn. She saw something flying outside. Next, she went to a small hole leading down below, spread her wings to fly down. However, due to her injury, her wings were unstable, hit the wall of the nest and fell down. Inside, she heard voices. As she went deeper inside, she saw many people with wings like her. One of them held an iron bullet, believing that it was time to fight for freedom. However, the leader Cunning, who had saved Maleficent, still maintained his stance of respecting peace. At this time, Bora pointed at her, believing that her power would bring victory. To prove it, he went to provoke her, but was immediately repelled by her magic. Everyone witnessed the incident and began to believe that she was the key to freedom. Everyone flapped their wings and flew away, and Cunning invited Maleficent to follow them. On the way, she saw many people with wings of all colors. They were the last individuals of the bird race. In the past, everyone could fly freely everywhere, but now they could only take shelter in caves, because of being oppressed by humans. She saw a white-haired fairy teaching children how to fly. A child plummeted to the ground, but a moment later they were able to flap their wings and fly. Instead of being able to fly freely over the rivers and streams, they were now confined here. She felt heartbroken and declared that she would protect them. Cunning also wished to find a solution, without resorting to war. After many disappointments with humans, Maleficent was still angry, and did not want to listen. When returning to the Ulstead Palace with Aurora, Pinto the hedgehog sneaked inside. However, unfortunately, he encountered a tabby cat, and was chased down to the research room of a dwarf monster. It happily captured him, and locked him in a glass box. Ingrith waited for Aurora in her room, saying words that made her feel guilty. Because of her love for Philip, she agreed to marry. The next day, Gerda announced everywhere that the wedding would take place after 3 days, inviting people from all over the land and the moors to attend. Everyone in the forest was very happy to hear this news. Cunning led Maleficent to a place. Inside the cliff, there was a phoenix fossil. She was also the last descendant of the phoenix bird. Through raising a human girl and going through many sufferings, Maleficent found love. So she was the key to peace. At that moment, Bora brought news of a royal wedding. Although Cunning did not agree, he still decided to form a team to attack the castle, with the intention of killing the queen and the prince, in order to overthrow the kingdom of Ulstead. In Ulstead, Aurora is given a simple but beautiful wedding dress by the fairy, surrounded by butterflies. She happily shows off to her mother-in-law. Ingrith, however, Ingrith forces she to wear the tight wedding dress other. At the palace, Aurora often hears insults about her mother, Maleficent. Everyone always thinks that her mother is the evil one who imprisoned her. They think Philip is the one who really saved her. That night, Aurora looks at the moors and remembers the promise she made to her mother when she was 16. Seeing his wife sad, the prince comes to comfort her. She shares that she is very depressed with the rules here. Philip encourages her, affirming that the person he loves is a princess in the forest, and there is no need to change herself. Meanwhile, the dwarf in the basement is experimenting with a dust made from flower graves and iron powder. This dust can destroy fairies. Ingrith hears and wants to try it. The dwarf caught a dandelion spirit, then dropped some dust on it. The spirit quickly dissipated, leaving only a dandelion. Ingrith happily grabbed the flower and blew it away, ordering the soldiers to invade moors to harvest flowers for medicine. As for Maleficent, she was in a cave watching people dance. A little girl came to give her a branch, but suddenly she felt something strange. The branch in her hand withered and fell. Immediately, she flew away, returning to moors. Standing on a nearby branch and looking down, She saw there were now only a few flowers left. Bora also came and said that it was time for her to live for herself, instead of thinking for evil humans. Unexpectedly, the soldiers were lying in wait below and started shooting iron bullets. Maleficent didn't have time to react, but fortunately, cunning flew over and caught her, and they both fell down. Immediately, she used magic to create a protective circle of trees for both of them. Bora, taking advantage of the moment when the soldiers were loading their guns, flew down and used his wings to whip them away. She also controlled the vines that grew everywhere to wrap around the soldiers. Bora continued to fly over, grabbed 2 soldiers, and threw them into the sky, then dropped them to the ground, pulling one up and screaming throughout the forest. The next morning, the Princess Aurora heard the noise, so immediately looked outside. She saw the fairy creatures from Moors crossing the river together to Ulstead. Fragrant flowers and strange grasses fluttered in the wind. Were all eager to attend her wedding. However, the army had created a barrier to prevent humans from entering, allowing only the creatures from the moors to enter. Diaval, still in human form, was also blocked. He decided to climb the wall to get through. There was a knock on the door. The prince came to Aurora and gave her a flower, saying that he had gotten it from his mother. She was surprised and wondered why mother-in-law had the flower, so she decided to go out and find out. She went to the dressing room, looked around and saw a mannequin with its head askew. When Aurora twisted the mannequin's head, a passage opened. Seeing the needle scar on her finger, she remembered the past but continued to go down. Then, Aurora entered a laboratory and saw a shuttle inside. She was fascinated. Despite the dwarf's warning, her finger approached the needle. Suddenly, she saw the image of mother-in-law stabbing the king with the needle. Now she understood everything. She also saw the captured fairies, so she asked the dwarf. When she accidentally discovered the scar on his back, he said that Ingrith had cut off his wings. They both needed to save the fairies, but Ingrith had arrived. Ingrith said that the Moors had killed her brother, but the princess no longer believed. Aurora was eventually imprisoned by Ingrith. In his kingdom, the leader cunning was seriously injured, making his younger brother Bora angry and starting a war. In the ceremony hall, the Moors creatures waited for a long time, but they saw no humankind appear. At this time, Queen Ingrith signaled Gerda to play music, and she pressed the button on the piano to spray red dust. A tree man accidentally touched the red dust, causing him to turn into a normal tree stump. The fairies panicked and ran away, but the exit was locked. Inside, Aurora tried to tear off her wedding dress to create a fake scene and make the guards run inside. Then, from behind the door, she sneaked out, but was chased. Finally, she had to grab a rope tied above, swing down to the lower floor, and was fortunately picked up by Philip. After that, Aurora told the whole truth to Philip. The prince could not believe this story. She immediately brought him to the king. She showed him the needle wound on the king's hand, exactly like hers. Philip was shocked, unable to understand why his mother wanted to harm his father. Meanwhile, before dying, cunning passed on his memories and leadership position to Maleficent, and Bora led the birdmen from the sea to battle Ingrith's army. When they saw the large number of soldiers Bora's, Ingrith's army were a bit worried, but she remained calm. She waited for them to fly to a certain distance, and then ordered to shoot. They fired a series of red dust bullets. Unfortunate birdmen caught in the red dust will vanish into smoke, causing many casualties. Bora was attacked by surprise, immediately ordered everyone to split into 2 wings, fly low to attack from below the city wall. Ingrith had prepared carefully, ordered the fuses to be lit on the hot air balloons containing red dust. The hot air balloons exploded, the red dust flew everywhere. Some fairies, who could not avoid it, died instantly. The sound of resentment echoed throughout the sky. Some of the birdmen had escaped. They carried the soldiers and threw them down below. Aurora ran across the battlefield to the wedding ceremony. But the door was blocked, she couldn't open it. At this time, Diaval had also arrived. Both of them tried to open the door. Inside the wedding ceremony, the treeman was also trying to crash into the door to open it. Then, Gather released red dust, and a treeman hurriedly ran over to use his body to support the 3 fairies. Above the castle, General Percival, following Ingrith's orders, fired red dust bullets back inside, ignoring the frightened people in the castle who ran away. There was a building about to collapse. The white-winged fairy saw it. Ignoring the dispute between the 2 species, flew down to save the children below. Philip ran to question his mother, but she had ordered him to be locked up. The prince pulled the rope of a hot air balloon and jumped to the ground. Percival followed him. The 2 fell and continued to struggle. Bora, who was flying above, saw this and swooped down and blew Percival away. In the wedding ceremony, red dust flew everywhere. Realizing that the situation was not good, the fairy Flittle sacrificed herself to destroy the harp. Gerda angrily climbed up to fix the harp, but two fairies Snodgrass and Thistlewood flew in and attacked her, causing her to fall from the heights. Outside the door, the soldiers came to arrest Aurora. They suppressed Divan, who suddenly transformed into a giant crow-beaked bear, knocking the soldiers away. At this moment, the sky lit up with blue lightning. Maleficent flew down from above, defeating the entire army with just a few hand gestures. The princess saw her fairy mother happy. Her fairy mother also looked at her and flew off to fight. She used all her strength to create magic, shoot at the towers, and destroy the red dust shooting machines. Then, she flew to the next tower, cut the rope to save a fairy. At the same time, in the basement, the dwarf remembered Aurora's words and released the fairies. Divan used his strength to break the door, helping everyone escape the dangerous situation. The princess led everyone to escape. Meanwhile, Percival quickly picked up a bow and arrow nearby and shot Bora down. Angry, he stood up, used his wings to knock away the crossbow and arrows with the intention of attacking Percival. Phillip ran over, pointed his sword at Bora to stop his actions. Although he was burned by the fire from the sword, the prince eventually put his sword down. Bora began to change his view of humans and flapped his wings to fly into the sky. Phillip and Percival ordered the soldiers to stop firing. Afterwards, Maleficent found Ingrith. At this time, Ingrith still tried to provoke her, wanting her to become a witch as rumored. Unexpectedly, Aurora ran over and stopped her mother. However, an arrow suddenly flew towards Aurora's, and she turned around to cover her daughter. The arrow contained red dust, causing her to turn into ashes. Aurora was heartbroken, screamed and fell down, tears continuously falling into the ashes. Ingrith thought she had won, but tears of love helped Maleficent revive into a black phoenix with beautiful, brilliant flames. Ingrith panicked, pushed the princess down and ran away, but before Ingrith could go far, she was captured by the bird tribe. The phoenix flew down, hugged Aurora. People quickly surrounded them. From the rubble, the phoenix flapped its wings, stood up and transformed into the dark fairy Maleficent. The princess happily ran over, and the mother and daughter hugged each other tightly. Dioval is also very happy to see she again. Then, Maleficent asks Philip if he still wants to marry her daughter, and he replies that he definitely does. At this point, the dwarf repents and shows the needle containing the curse. She throws it into the sky, causing it to turn into ashes. The shuttle in the basement also disappears forever. The prince declares an end to the war and establishes an alliance between the two races. Aurora happily invites everyone to attend her wedding. Fresh flowers and strange grasses bloom everywhere, hiding the ruins and soothing everyone's loss. The king has regained consciousness, and when he goes out to the balcony, he sees a brilliant flower, inside of which is a spirit. Thanks to that, his dream finally comes true. The evil queen is turned into a white goat. Maleficent not only heals Aurora, but also creates a gorgeous dress for her. She leads the princess into the wedding hall and hands her over to the prince. Divan, like a father whose daughter was getting married for the first time, couldn't hold back her tears. Maleficent reminded him, and then she also wiped away her tears. Aurora and Philip exchanged rings and had a passionate kiss under the blessing of everyone. The couple stood on the castle watching the sunrise. Maleficent came to congratulate them, then flapped her powerful wings, flying around the cliffs with the children of the bird tribe towards the sky.